And we are back. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Press Cincinnati Sports Fan Podcast. I am your host, Jesse. On this podcast or video, wherever you're listening to this, either through podcast or YouTube, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They got a W on Sunday Night Football, beating the New York Football Giants 17-7 in a game where, I'll be honest, it was very wouldn't say it was boring, but if you're a defensive minded NFL football fan, you like defenses, this was your game. If you're an offensive person like myself who like teams scoring points, but also I want the defense to at least do their thing and not like give up 40 points like the Bengals defense has been doing over the last 3 games until they were able to answer a call on Sunday Night Football, then this is probably not the game for you when it comes to offenses. Because coming to this football game, the New York Football Giants had a really good defensive line. And I pretty much told people that on the podcast during the recap of this game last week, and also previewing the game as well on my YouTube channel. The Giants are a very underrated defensive line group. You got Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, and they cause havoc on the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. So we'll get to them and talk about that. But here are my thoughts on the football game that happened on Sunday night. Shout out to the Bengals defense. Listen, after the Chiefs game, the Bengals defense have allowed 38 points. And then, they beat the Panthers, so they allowed 24. And then they allowed 41 points to the Baltimore Ravens last Sunday. So the defense has been playing well over the last 3 games. And I believe in this football game, coming into this game, they were like, okay. They took it personal because Bengals fans, the media, they were dogging them. And honestly, they had every right to be upset and to be dogged on because they have played like shit, according to Mike Hilton, who didn't play in the Ravens game, but played against the Giants on Sunday Night Football, and he was a big impact player on the game as well. Defense were motivated, and now, slowly but surely, the Bengals defensive line is starting to get healthy. BJ Hill played an amazing game. Sheldon Rankins played well. You didn't really hear a lot from Myles Murphy or Joseph Asai. I think I'm just happy that the defense answered the call because they've been criticized over the last 3 weeks. So I'm happy about that. They allowed 309 total yards of offense. That's perfect recipe for a victory. If you're playing defense in the NFL, if you allow the opposing team offense to only 300 yards total, or 300 to 320, then you're doing your job. Because against the Ravens, the Bengals defense allowed over 500 yards of total offense to the Ravens. That's a great offensive team, don't get me wrong. But to only allow 309 at New York, well done. They forced a turnover. Daniel Jones came into this football game with only having 3 picks. And Daniel Jones is known in his career to turn the football over. In this football game, the Bengals were awarded an interception thanks to Daniel Jones throwing a bad pass while getting pressured once again by BJ Hill. And Jermaine Pratt caught the ball in the air for the pick. That was a big interception because the Giants were driving the football in the red zone midway in the first quarter. That was a big interception. Jermaine Pratt, when it comes to clutch turnovers in his time as a Cincinnati Bengal, came up with that one in this football game. Like I talked about, getting pressure on Daniel Jones thanks to BJ Hill. Trey Hendrickson, 2 sacks, up to 5 sacks on the season. Man, I'm telling you, Trey Hendrickson, this game was a national televised game. Like I said, Sunday Night Football. I hope the world or just people on national television audience that are big football fans watching saw what Trey Hendrickson can do in a football game and how he can change a football game. I believe it was Andrew Thomas or Brian Thomas. I know the last name was Thomas, one of the Giants offensive linemen that had to go against Trey Hendrickson. And he was having a rough time. So shout out to Trey. Yes, the Bengals struggle defending the run pretty much all season. They allowed 119 on the ground, but they were able to make those yards very difficult on the New York Giants. Daniel Jones actually led the team in rushing with 56 yards. Tracy Jr., the rookie running back out of Purdue, had 50 yards. So you know what? I will take that. Daniel Jones is known to be a mobile quarterback. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 230. He don't care, man. He'll run the football and he'll try to run over you. So that's what he did. But shout out to the Bengals defense. I thought the run defense was better. And also the run defense has been better the last 2 weeks. They were able to contain Derrick Henry until that big 51-yard run he had in overtime that set themselves up for a Justin Tucker winning field goal at the end. But overall, I think the Bengals' run defense is gradually getting better. I know they still allowed over 100 yards rushing, but it wasn't the point like when they were playing against the Chiefs and Commanders early on this season. Yes, I know the Giants didn't have Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary, but the defense still allowed only 7 points. Now, last week when the Giants went to Seattle and took on the Seahawks, their offense scored 29 points. So it's still pretty impressive that the Bengals were able to hold that offense at home, that same Giants offense that scored 29 points in Seattle, to only 7 points. That's well done right there. And also, this is a crazy stat. This is the first time in 75 games that the Bengals defense didn't allow 10-plus points in a football game. You have to go back to 2019, the last time the Bengals held an opponent under 10 points. So shout out to the Bengals defense. They deserve all the love. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. Let's talk about the Bengals offense. First drive, 3rd and 18, Joe Burrow. I don't know why the Giants brought a blitz on 3rd and 18. You thought the Bengals were going to get 18 yards? I mean, the offense is capable of getting 18 yards on 3rd and 18, but they brought an all-out blitz, I believe. And Joe just started running to the right, and that man showed off his speed. They clocked Joe at 20 miles per hour. Crazy. 47-yard touchdown run on the first offensive drive of the game. 7-0 Cincinnati. Now, I didn't think the game is over. We got this. We're going to romp the Giants. But it was a great start to the game. Because honestly, I thought the offense was either going to punt or they're going to get some yardage to get in Evan McPherson field goal range. But for Joey B to go 47 yards to the crib, that was wild. I wasn't even screaming. I was just like, dang, look at Joe go. Unbelievable. But after that opening drive touchdown, the offense was flat. You can give credit, like I said in the beginning, to the Giants' defensive line. They are really good, led by Dexter Lawrence, like I said, Brian Burns, and then Azeez Ojulari. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he had 2 sacks on Joe. Giants came into this football game leading the NFL with sacks at 22. They sacked Joe 4 times in this football game. So right now the Giants lead the league now. They upped their league in sacks to 26 on the season. The offensive line, listen, we've praised them over the first half of the season, and they deserve it. Orlando Brown Jr. is playing some of his best ball of his career. Cordell Volson been playing well at year 3. Ted Karras, Mr. Steady, consistent in the center position. Trent Brown unfortunately got hurt in the Commanders Monday Night Football game, so Amarius Mims, the Bengals' first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, has started the last 2 games. Bengals O-line, they didn't fare well in this football game. Allowed 4 sacks. It was definitely their worst performance of the season. And that's, you know what? They're allowed to have games like that. But the New York Football Giants line, their defensive line, they were winning at every snap, it felt like, in the first half. I think you can probably say throughout the game. So these next 2 weeks are going to be really a challenge for the O-line because they got the Cleveland Browns coming up next. And the Browns, that line, they got Myles Garrett. And even though the Browns are 1-5, for some reason, in the Joe Burrow era, Cleveland Browns just have an amazing game plan against the Cincinnati Bengals offense, especially when they go up to Cleveland. It makes no sense. So the Bengals offensive line has to be ready for that football game come this Sunday. The running game was meh. Zach Moss, he fumbled in the red zone when the Bengals got the ball back in the second half after the Giants went for it on 4th and 2. Very risky call at the 38-yard line. Didn't get it. Bengals get the ball in great field position. Got to the red zone. Zach Moss running the football, fumbles it. Chase Brown, he fumbled it at the end of the game. Almost gave the Giants a chance at either tying or winning the football game. Thankfully, Chase Brown was able to bat the ball out of bounds because there was 2 Giants defenders about to secure the ball, and then it would have been that would have been bad. Cincinnati Bengals fans would have been on edge and probably on life support if the Giants got the football back with a chance to either tie or go ahead and potentially win the football game. But Chase Brown was able to redeem himself a play later, scoring a touchdown to put the game on ice. So the running game they still rushed for over 100 yards, but who would have thought that Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones were going to lead their respective teams, in rushing yards in this football game? I didn't think that was going to happen. That's kind of crazy. T. Higgins, 7 catches, 77 yards on 7 targets. Great game for T. Jamar Chase was getting double teamed. Of course, that was going to happen. Jamar Chase ended the game with 5 catches, 72 yards. Pretty much majority of those yardage came in the Bengals, I believe, second offensive drive in the second half, where Joe found Jamar for a big play finally. It was 33 yards, but it was Joe pretty much doing Joe Burrow magic, extending the play, scrambling, and finding his boy Jamar Chase for a big gain yardage. And then late in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 12. Before that, Zach Taylor decided to do 2 run plays that went absolutely for nothing. Bengals lose yardage, and it felt like the Ravens game all over again. 3rd and 12, needing a first down to keep the drive alive and to not give the Giants any time to even get the ball back or just seal the game. Joe scrambling, throws a dot on the run, finding Andre Yoshibas for a huge 29-yard reception that kept the Bengals' last offensive drive of the game going. That's what Joe Burrow does, man. Even though he was hit a lot in this football game, he landed in his head, had to go to the blue medical tent. All of us are wondering, oh my gosh, this man got concussed. But thankfully, he got evaluated. He was fine. He was able to come back in the football game. Thank goodness. But it wasn't the best Joe Burrow game, but he was able to get the job done and make those clutch plays, as we know what number 9 can do. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the football game. My player of the games, BJ Hill. Can't say enough about him. Playing against a former team that drafted him, then traded him, so he was motivated. Same with Lou Anarumo. He's from Staten Island, so he had a lot of family members at the football game on Sunday Night Football. He was motivated. Also, just hearing how much shit his defense has been ragged on all week by the media, and then myself included. They wanted to put out a good performance, and also he wanted to put out a good performance in front of his family and friends. BJ Hill, 7 tackles, 2 passes defended, and 2 quarterback hits. Mike Hilton, who didn't play against the Ravens because he had a knee injury, but he was very impactful in this football game against the Giants. 5 tackles and 1 quarterback hit. DJ Turner, big pass breakup on the Giants' 5th 4th down conversion attempt. Brian Doyle, he was playing just to win. And I hope Zach Taylor took some notes, because the fact that Brian Doyle has more faith in Daniel Jones than Zach Taylor at times doesn't have faith in Joe Burrow, that's embarrassing. That's a problem. But DJ Turner, huge pass deflection late in the football game. And then let's talk about T. Higgins, man. I know the Bengals franchise tag team, but this guy's good. I know he's been injury prone in his career, but when he's healthy, this guy is just a beast. T. Higgins, he's probably the only receiver in the NFL that makes some of the most difficult catches the easiest. Like he'll just catch the ball, and it looks like he's about to drop it, but he catches it, secures it like with his fingertips, and makes it look so easy. I'm like, T, you're like so good, man. It's unfortunate that probably the Bengals won't be able to keep him next season, and that's a bummer. I really don't want to even envision life without T. Higgins, but we've seen it. When T. Higgins is not out there, Jamar Chase is basically struggling to get the football from Joe because the opposing team, the defense, they're pretty much going to double team him. Of course, he's one of the best receivers in the league. Now, Jamar Chase did have to drop in this football game. If he didn't drop that pass in the second half, because it looked like he was focusing on the after catch, because it looked like that ball, if he caught that, he could have maybe gone to the end zone, but it would have been 15 plus yards and more because he's one of the best receivers when it comes to after contact yards plays in the NFL. But man, T. Higgins, such a value player. He really is. Just can't believe the Bengals didn't sign him. But I'm not going to rag on the Bengals organization. I've already done that in plenty of podcasts, so you can go back and listen to it. Next game for the Bengals, like I said, against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. The Browns are 1-5. They lost a close game to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the Browns are bad. Deshaun Watson's bad. But Nick Chubb is going to make his season debut. He's been out recovering from the knee injury that he suffered in week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, because that's a dirty-ass football team last year. So Chubb is now ready to go. Depending on how healthy he is, I don't think he's going to get a lot of workload. But in his career against the Bengals, he's done so well. This is a football game that is going to be pretty much, I feel like, going to be like the game we saw on Sunday Night Football. That's just my first initial reaction and preview of the Browns game on Sunday. It's going to be a typical AFC North game. It's going to be physical. I think the Bengals offensive line needs to be better than they were against the Giants. Because even though Myles Garrett is probably not 100%, he can still wreak havoc on the Bengals defense even at like 70%. So they better be ready to go. They got to break that curse of losing in Cleveland. The last time the Bengals won in Cleveland was 2017. That's like 7 years ago. Come on, has to end. All right, that's pretty much it. Appreciate you guys listening to this recap or thoughts and reaction from the Bengals victory over the Giants. Bengals are now 2-4 on the season. If you're not, subscribe to the podcast and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to post more, okay? But if you guys are listening to the podcast on Spotify, I appreciate you guys if you give it a follow, leave a 5-star review, leave any comment. I greatly appreciate it. Also follow this YouTube page as well. Subscribe, turn on your post notifications. I appreciate you guys. Me and Tommy will recap the Bengals and Giants game entirely on Tuesday. And then that episode will be out probably Tuesday evening, probably Wednesday morning, but most likely on Tuesday evening. Appreciate you guys. Who they always. Love you guys. And I am out. Peace.